Namaste. My name is Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer from Savannah, Georgia. This is an astrology forecast for the final week of June, the first week of July 2015. And we've got some pretty profound, pretty big and deep subject to talk about this time around. So we came out of a waterworks weekend. The sun was in Cancer, the moon was in Scorpio. So we could have been feeling an awful lot in a deep range, a full spectrum of emotions, of feels the last couple days. Then yesterday morning, the moon moved into Sagittarius. Today, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter in a trine to Uranus. Wednesday, the moon moves into Capricorn in the morning, and then that evening, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a full moon in Capricorn, highlighting the Capricorn-Cancer polarity, which I personally see as the most important polarity for us as human beings on this earth at this particular time. As this is the polarity that is undergoing the most change and transformation, desperately so, as we move into the new age. And we do have Pluto transiting Capricorn for the next 13 years, changing outer structure, tradition, culture, government, schools, as we evolve towards Cancer, developing more familiar, intimate, emotional security. So we are dealing with the security axis this week. A full moon brings out our emotions. The Cancer season brings out our emotions. And these emotions can go very deep, can go deep into our past, taking us back to our childhood, our families, our first intimate relationships, our friendships, okay, that go very deep, that go very far. This takes us back into our past lives, okay, as oftentimes our childhood situations, our parental situations reflect our past lives as a means for us to sort of begin where we last left off. So these themes go profoundly deep. The emotions are profoundly important because that is our means of discovering our depth, our story, our history, what we have and what we are lacking in terms of full security. And because we are talking so much about the masculine and the feminine in terms of Cancer and Capricorn, we are going to describe and talk all about this polarity of masculine and feminine, how deep it goes, how important it is, and how we can restore the proper dynamic and balance between these two eternal personalities, the mother and the father. And of course, since we are talking about the fundamental duality here, the mother and the father coming out of the primordial mystery that is, these are the first two, the original duality from which all things are born. All children are born out of this original mother and father. Therefore, all of us as human beings are made out of masculine and feminine energy, and everything in our life, in our experience, in our universe functions because of the relationship between these two. And the relationship between these two in collective history, in our own current world, current contemporary society, is there balance, is there harmony, which is the same as love? Is there love in our world? Is there all prevalent, all pervasive love that is apparent and you can see it on every corner and every place? No, because there is not the harmony, there is not the balance between the masculine and the feminine. It is actually the love shared between the mother and the father, which is the most powerful, profound, inconceivable, uplifting, ecstatic thing in the universe. The love between the mother and the father actually controls the mother and the father. So the love that is shared between the mother and the father, the dynamic, the dance, the experience that is shared between the mother and the father is actually the most powerful, the most secure thing in the entire universe. When we talk about getting true security, we are talking about tapping within our hearts back to that original primordial love that always exists and is all pervasive in the universe, even though we can't always see it on the street corner, in our contemporary society, in our world, because we have been disconnected from our original nature. So we are all insecure. And this insecurity plays out in a variety of different ways for each of us. But we can kind of bring it back now to these fundamental dynamics. And by explaining these two fundamental principles, we can start to see where our insecurities are because we feel them. And once we feel them, those feelings are our passageway, is our little rope to getting back to the primordial love. So the masculine and the feminine, Cancer and Capricorn. What is this axis? What is this polarity? And how can we balance this within ourselves, being made of these two? Well, Capricorn. Full moon in Capricorn illuminates the masculine security need, which is outward. Now, masculine and feminine, let's describe these two. Capricorn is unchanging security, like the mountain. This is Capricorn. The security of Capricorn is, come, stand upon me. Let me be your foundation, for I am unwavering. I am permanent. I am secure. So the fundamental masculine is actually unwavering, eternal consciousness. And each of us as human beings, of course, are made of this eternal consciousness that never changes, that never moves, that is permanently fixed. Okay? This is masculine. It is consciousness. It doesn't have form. It doesn't have definition, and yet it permanently is consciousness. What is the feminine? Cancer. What is changing? Cancer is ruled by the moon. What is the moon? The moon is always changing. Changing from first quarter full, third quarter new. And this is the death and birth process that is nature. This is the feminine. The feminine is form, is life, that is always changing, always dancing, always shifting like the weather does. And we are also made of the feminine. We have bodies that grow older. We have relationships that begin and will inevitably end, as we do ultimately plunge back into that primordial mother that is death, that is nature, the fusion reactor of nature that we all return to. Our bodies return to the dust, to the earth, for it to be reformulated, to come back as a tree, as a plant, as an animal, constantly being recycled. This is death and birth, constant changing, constant shifting. So when we deal with these in terms of security, we need both the security of the mother and the father. And oftentimes our relationship to our parents, our childhood, reflects the inner dynamic, reflects our woundings, reflects our suffering, that can reflect past lifetimes, that can reflect themes that go very, very deep in us. And this is a time to be acknowledging such themes. And we're going to talk about how this acknowledgement of these themes, this feelings that can be evoked, is our gateway back to love. Okay? But, masculine security. We need this in this world. We all want this foundation beneath our feet. And how does this play out? This plays out with money, job, school. We are taught that if you want that foundation beneath your feet, you want to feel like there is a permanent mountain. Yeah, Capricorn could also be the building aspect of your house. You have a roof over your head. Yeah, the rain's not going to ruin your day. If you want that roof over your head, you need a job, you need money, and this is what we are taught by culture, and our culture is disbalanced towards Capricorn. Like, that's how you get permanent security, that's how you get back to love, by busting your ass, by working more to get that security underneath your feet. And that's not totally properly the way to do it. To get that real foundation beneath our feet, in order to feel actually permanently at peace, this is masculinity. Okay, masculine is, again, not changing, all-pervasive, eternal consciousness. Okay, it does not change. It has no dance. It is not form. It is simply the spaciousness which holds everything. That is the kind of Capricorn security that we are after with this full moon. Do you always get that through jumping through the hoops for getting money? No. But how do you tap into that? We have to go into solitude. We have to go into a safe space and meditate in the quiet and reconnect with that consciousness, which is eternally present and here and does not change and was here before our death and will remain after our death. That is a huge level of security. And there have been a good amount of traditions and religions that have encouraged this type of approach to getting security. Go off into the monastery, meditate, go off into the cave, go into the church. Separate yourself from the women, from the emotions, from nature. Get away from all that. Yes, there are some old religions that say nature is an illusion. The dance is illusion. The weather is illusion. You're never going to find permanent happiness in what's always changing, so get away from that. And the only problem with that is, does that take you to the love that is shared between the masculine and the feminine, that is the most powerful and the most secure thing in the entire universe? That's the question. Does it actually take us there? Because if we go off and we meditate and we disconnect from nature and we are at peace in our own consciousness because there's nothing else that is there, is that what our souls really want? Or is it possible that our souls might get bored with that type of enlightenment after a while and send us back into the world and say, well, yeah, but there's other souls, there's other people. What about this complexity that is relationships, that is emotions, that is life? So life is the feminine. That's what flows through us. It changes, life changes, it has many faces, many dances, but this is life. Whereas the masculine consciousness is pretty much death. It is there before our birth and after our death. It is always there. It is permanent. It is eternal. Now, Cancer security. How do we get Cancer security? Cancer security is different from, I need a permanent roof above my head. I need a mountain beneath my feet so I feel stable. Cancer security is very different. Cancer security is, I want to be able to change. I want to be able to flow. I want to be able to feel what I feel in the moment I feel it, and that be okay. That's different from a solid foundation. That's different from a roof above our head. Those things are necessary to hold the space for us to be able to do the emotional dancing. But we need a different type of security to be able to do that, to be able to flow with life. We need both the masculine and the feminine. The consciousness is that stability which holds the dance and the play of life, which is rich, which is flavorful, which inspires our heart to open and grow and pour out love and beauty and compassion onto other people. If we do not get into our feelings, if we do not get into the dance, into the movement of life, we cannot reconnect with that love either. It cannot be one way or the other. We need to do both simultaneously, as we are children of the mother and the father, which means in our genes, going back to the stardust that we were formed from. This is our nature, masculine and femininity. And for those advanced souls, typically it's not one or the other. You're a man, so you're masculine. You're a woman, so you're feminine. We are both, okay? And we're trying to figure out, how can we function as both of these? And this is the question, and this is where so much work and development can happen this week in regards to this full moon. And the sun is actually going to be exactly trying to Neptune at the time of this full moon. Venus, which just passed Jupiter, is going to be trying to Uranus, and Uranus and Jupiter and Venus will be sextile to Mercury in Gemini. So there is also a lot of progressive, forward, inventive energy that's also taking us through this week, yes? And we talked a little bit about this last week. And actually, we have to pay attention to something historically that happened in the last week because of this astrology, which is just so fascinating to look at. And that's the Supreme Court case to allow gays to marry in the United States. Now, we had Venus, the planet of love, conjoining with Jupiter, the planet of illumination, expansion, and intelligence, in the sign of Leo, of creativity, of sexuality, of love, trying to Uranus, the planet of revolution and evolution, in the sign of Aries, the sign of pioneering, of inventing, of initiating. And all of these were trying to Pallas Athena in Sagittarius, the androgynous, both masculine and feminine, simultaneous goddess of wisdom, of human rights, of social rights, of sexual rights. So this is what we had happen over this last week. Now, we did talk about Venus retrograde, which means that Venus is going to pass this point 2 more times. I think it's either August or September or October. At this third and final pass of this point, we're also going to have Jupiter in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces, which is essentially saying everything that's going on with this is encouraging and challenging our fundamental belief systems to expand, encouraging these things to change. This is what we are collectively going through, and this is simply an outer reflection of this. So that was a very progressive thing that's going on. You know, the belief system thing is very interesting. There is a whole lot of having to figure out, what is my sexual role? What is my gender role? What does it mean not just to be a man, but be a man of the new paradigm? What does it mean not just to be a woman, but be a woman of the new paradigm? And I got to share with you a hugely inspirational force to me in all of this, because actually yesterday I traveled up to Atlanta to visit the hugging Saint Amma on the most appropriate day of the Sun in Cancer, Moon in Scorpio. And yes, I was beside myself in emotion. And it was hugely inspirational. I actually met two people that recognized me from the channel, two Krishna devotees. My heart was so touched. But going to see Amma, you know, it's like I've had all these emotions come up, all these pains, going back to childhood, past lives, blah, blah, blah. And you just feel this stuff. And that's the key with this. We have to feel this stuff. Our feelings will take us into the heart-opening process. If we don't allow ourselves to descend into feelings, we will be superficial lovers. If we do not feel the full spectrum of what life brings to us, whether it is heart-opening or heart-wrenchingly painful, we are superficial lovers. Love is the full spectrum. Love is union and separation. And without both, love could not exist. Which is why the love between the masculine and the feminine, the original love between them, is what we are reconnecting in order to establish true security. Now, going to visit Amma, it was kind of interesting because I brought all those wounds, and and I approached Amma, and in that embrace, I was thinking to myself, I never want this embrace to end. I always want to feel cradled by the mother. I always want to feel safe. I always want to feel secure. I always want to feel taken care of. Who doesn't? And yet I couldn't help but receive this little intuitive, like, it's not, I'm holding you and that's fine, my child, but there's something else there. There's something else a little bit missing. And then, after my hug, you get to sit on stage and you see this woman. And I personally think that Amma in the future is only going to be more and more seen as a truly important symbol. Because here is someone who is hugging all of her children in the world. And she's not standing up there and preaching. She's not telling people what to do. She's not saying what unconditional love is. She's exemplifying what unconditional love is by embracing everybody. It doesn't matter at all who or what you believe in, what you are. It does not matter. That is exemplifying unconditional love. So afterwards, sitting on the stage and after being separated, and I'm watching this woman hug the woman and the men and the children, and all of these emotions are coming out, and some of them are crying because they're sad, and some of them are laughing. And how can you not be so inspired by this? And oh my gosh, it's just like I forgot about my separation, about my stinky little life, and all the little things that annoy me because I was in the presence of such an inspirational person that was exemplifying unconditional love. And it no longer matters what I'm getting and what I'm doing in terms of my security, in terms of my ground beneath my feet and my emotions. It is, how can I share this gift of unconditional love to other people? How can I bring this gift of unconditional love into my relationships, into my family life, into my job? This is the question of this week. As we continue to go to our job and we continue to, I don't have enough money, and the boss is being an asshole this week, and I'm getting sent back to school, or I'm revisiting my parents and they're asking me how much money I make and blah, 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 blah. Is this unconditionally loving? Am I allowing myself to receive and give unconditional love in this setting? Is this giving me this type of security? Or do I need to go off for a while and meditate? Or do I need to reach out towards other people and share my emotions? There's a lot of possibilities this week. There's a lot of sort of, Like there's all of these dreams, there's all these goals. What do I want to be? I want to be the loving man who is both strong and yet soft enough to be unconditionally loving. I want to be the loving woman who is emotional and soft but simultaneously strong enough to be able to provide nurturance for other people. We need both the masculine and the feminine to do this. We both need the masculine consciousness, which is all pervasive, which is the understanding that all my relationships may come and they will end. My lover and myself will die at a certain point in time. This will happen. These things are impermanent, but I can return to this peacefulness within myself. And simultaneously, we are experiencing the full spectrum, the rainbow of emotions. Which means that there are painful things in this world that will break our hearts. And if we're going to be too perverted masculine and say, I don't have time for that, I need to be stable, I need to be safe, I need to put away my emotions so I can make enough money at my job, you're going to get disconnected. You're not going to find security that way. We need to embrace these emotions. This is actually the collective endeavor, is we need to practice embracing emotions. Oh, it hurts your heart? Yeah, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful that that hurts your heart so bad. You witness something tragic and it breaks your heart, makes it beautiful. There is love actively at work for that to happen. You could not empathize and have your heart broken and have all this stuff leak out of you if there was not love there. It is the love in you that is evoking these emotions. Therefore, how can you be an unconditionally loving person and not feel the full spectrum of emotions? And this is the whole point. These various flavors, this dance, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're not. Our mind goes this way and that. Our emotions go this way and that. Even our bodies can go this way and that throughout time. All these things are changing, but that's okay. We appreciate each and every emotion as it arises. Don't put it to the side. I don't have time for this. Blah, blah, blah. It's too emotional. I can't handle this. I'm going to take some drug or drink or blah, blah, blah. You cannot do that and be a sincerely loving person. We have to allow these emotions to fill us up like a glass being full of water, and this is what water is, you know? And I believe in bhakti. I am a bhakta, which means that we need water to get into our heart. We need to have these feelings evoked to get into our heart. This is why we watch movies and we, when sad things happen, it awakens our heart. It awakens our heart. That is the purpose of all of the tragedy, of all of the suffering on this earth. So many people, including me, when I go to Amma, why so much suffering? Why does this happen to me? Why, and I am not belittling the fact that this stuff sucks. Holocausts, slavery, rape, all of this exists, and it's pretty prevalent here. I'm not saying, oh, you're crybabies for feeling about that. Oh, no. No. We need to feel all that stuff and have our heart ripped open like a piñata. That is the reason there's so much suffering on this earth, is because we have not done that yet. We are collectively going through the process of having our hearts ripped open like a piñata. Stop caring about whether it's your nation, your sexual gender, blah, 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 my religion, your religion is not loving. You're all operating in the lower part of ourselves. We're all operating in the lower part of ourselves. We're not getting to our heart because we're not allowing ourselves to feel the full spectrum that takes place on earth. So the second part of this equation is after you let yourself feel the full spectrum of earth, and this can be many of you viewers who are very watery, who are very sensitive. It's like we're feeling this stuff all the time. I walk down the street and there's a dead squirrel on the road and it's like, it's like, that's another possibility. How do we not get rocked around like a plastic bag in a tornado? How do we actually have the security within ourselves? And yes, we talked about consciousness and, returning to that masculinity. What we also need to do is connect with those inspirational people and those figures that inspire us to see the worst things that happen on the earth and be inspired, to have passion, to make changes, to do things differently, to feel those feelings that are evoked, whether it be devastating pain or devastating anger or rage. We can harness those emotions and use them to spearhead the future, to initiate new movements, to change our life, to change our sexual roles, our social roles, our gender roles. All these things must change to make way for love. This is what we are doing, and this is why the suffering here is a part of the service of opening our hearts. It is believed in the ancient texts that Earth is in between so many innumerable hellish planets and so many innumerable heavenly planets. And because we are in the middle, in Middle Earth, in between the lower and upper world, it is advantageous because it gives us the opportunity to experience a full spectrum in this life of both heaven and hell. And the experience of both is what awakens love within. And when real, authentic, unconditional love is opened in your heart, it does not matter if you're at the lowest hellish planet or the highest heavenly planet. Both are unsatisfactory compared to the unconditional love that can be evoked and awakened in your heart. That is the shared love of the eternal Mother and Father. It has nothing to do with how your day's going, how much money you're making, whether you're in heaven or even in hell. Does not matter, because all of those things get completely overpowered, drenched, saturated by the potential of your own heart to awaken and become like a fountainhead, spilling onto the world, spilling onto all of these other people. So I'm obviously very excited, I'm energized, and this is because I am reflecting the energy that I tried to absorb from Amma like a sponge. And this is what we all need to do. We need to find these people, these personalities. They do not have to be living. We can find it in books, in audio, in music, whatever. It is a heart-to-heart process each and every time. It is a personality speaking the wisdom of the heart from one heart to another each and every time. It doesn't matter if they're alive or not. But we must reconnect with these inspiring people that inspire us to be more unconditionally loving if we're going to make it in this world. We cannot fight this alone. So this is very much a group endeavor. And this week there is a lot of dreaming. There's a lot of possibilities, yes? It's like we all have this end-all goal that we're looking for. Yes, unconditional love, we'll say. This is what we want. This is it. That's the end. That's the end of the road. Once we get that, no more desires, no more suffering, no more confusion about what's going on. So let's just say that's the end goal. Now, the challenge of this week is how can I both integrate my physical outside life, my job, my community, my structure, my diploma from school. All of this is relevant. All of this is useful. How can I use these things to serve the all-in-all goal of unconditional love? Similarly, how can I take my emotions that are evoked from tragedy, that is evoked from pleasure, that is evoked from the beauty that if you open your eyes and start to see in the world is everywhere, whether it is painful or uplifting, it is beautiful because it evokes emotions in us. Powerful emotions that have the propensity to awaken our hearts. So how can we use the various emotions, our various past wounds, our various past pains to awaken unconditional love in ourselves? How can this serve the all-in-all goal of unconditional love? How can my own masculine energy and my feminine energy come into harmony so they are working together to preserve my own security? And that security is unconditional love. There is nothing more secure than that. Hobos living on the streets live more blissful lives than the majority of Americans. People living in India, third world countries, starving to death, live happier lives than many Americans. Because if you can tap into love, you are more secure than anybody else in the world. So, this is the week to invent. This is the week to explore. This is the week to dream. New concepts, new ideas, new roles, new activities, new ways of doing things, new ways of relating to one another that serves this ultimate security that is unconditional love. So, I am wishing you all the best, many blessings, many prayers in this endeavor. It is a group endeavor, and as we continue to support one another and uplift one another, then the dance, then the music, then the eternally upward spiral of bliss and love becomes apparent. And then this world is no longer one of confusion and suffering. It is a paradise. We already have the kingdom of heaven within us. All we have to do is move through the various blockages, conditionings, lessons that taught us to get away from that eternal, permanent truth. That guess what? Ultimately, we can't even get away from it. So we might as well face the inevitable. We might as well accept what is permanent and what is not, and allow that truth to awaken the depths of our heart.